School Board session open. If you'll please join me in pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would entertain a motion at this time to approve our agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Anyone want to vote on an item separately?
That's not this is just the agenda.
Oh, yeah, that's the, okay. Right.
This is not the-
Anyone, all right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we don't have any public comments on the agenda, so I guess we will move to board member comments.
Start with me?
Yeah.
Well, yesterday was a pretty awesome day. Started with our audit exit conference. I came and they were really quick because we were so awesome. They were so awesome. And then the graduation, of course, was wonderful. And I'm always such a girl about it, you know. I'm a mom, so I imagine like all these boys coming up and they're shaking hands and shouting out loud, and I'm like, oh my God, that's my son. And then I tear up more. So it was really cool. I really enjoyed that every time.
And I too enjoyed the graduation. It was very nice. The high school administration did a wonderful job, and I really do applaud them. It's a big event, so that was pretty special. And my password is incorrect. Boardroom?
Did we change the
It's
password?
It's boardroom, lowercase, no spaces.
That's what I typed in.
Oh,
It's capital B-O-A-R-D.
Oh, capital
It's
B.
it's gone.
Other than that, I've just been having fun with my Reading Buddy program at Sand Hill, and it's over now, so I'm going to miss those little guys. And that's all I can think of right now because I'm thinking about this.
Art?
The highlight, of course, was last night. The very first kid that got his diploma was, of course, special to me. All the kids are special to me. That was Nico,
Yeah.
because he was a Builders Club president.
All right.
He was also in Builders Club for several years, and I remember him during those days when he was struggling with himself.
Mm.
And look how he has turned out. Wow. He's gotten past those issues and just become a really wonderful person, and he has a future that he's looking forward to. So am I too. But it was just nice, kind of a little bit envious of Laura. She got to see this stuff. But in any case, all the kids were great. I did get to, of course, the first one I showed was Melissa Scalis, who her father, when he was he's still a teacher, a fourth grade teacher, was my daughter's favorite teacher.
Huh.
She remembers Melissa as a little baby.
Huh.
I didn't because I didn't meet her. She did. In any case, now Melissa's graduated, so there's always personal connections with several of the kids, but then all the kids just watching them walk up and shaking their hands. Some of them are doing these things,
Yeah,
some of them
yeah.
are doing other things, and but just seeing the different emotions on their faces, and some of them are shell-shocked and some of them are not. It's just kind of fun. Anyway, that plus the other part is I just wanted to report, just because this is a brag for the fellow out in the audience there. The Builders Club, that's where I volunteer for a lot, as you all know. They did two big projects in the last few weeks. One of them that didn't do so well, that was the Relay for Life. Although the project went successful, they didn't show up very much. So it really wound up being the adults. And the club secretary, the club treasurer was there the whole time. Bless her. And then they also collected, finished their used bicycle drive. And they collected 54 bicycles.
Wow.
And they had been planning to reach 40 because that would have been their club record for the year. bunch, 54 bicycles that are going to go to the Purdy Prison to get refurbished and given away to needy children.
All right.
Great, good for them. Anyway, that's it.
So.
Thank you.
Amazing. I really enjoyed it, and just every row of kids, there was someone that I knew, and so I just kind of let fate take hold, and I was able to shake the hand of a girl that was a page for my husband, and she's kind of become a close family friend since then. We get to know them pretty well, and it was really cool to be able to hand that to her. And she wasn't her normal self. She was a little bit stiff, a little bit nervous, and it was kind of, I'm like, you're going to make me cry, And she was holding up pretty good, and I got that look of, don't push it, or I'm going to cry too. So we just kind of held it together. But it was really awesome. And this, about a week or so ago, I'm losing track of time, I'm with Windermere, so we went ahead and worked at Sand Hill and worked on their garden. And I could not be more proud of our kids. The garden is amazing. There is not just a tomato, there's all kinds of tomatoes, there's all kinds of carrots, and just, they're growing so many amazing things, and they want to benefit our food bank, which I just thought was awesome. Here they are learning, and they're giving at the same time. I was so proud of them. And then as we're working, I got weeding, which was not my favorite, but I knew I was going to end up with weeding because you don't want me around painting, and you really don't want me assembling anything. So weeding was it. And every time it came out, every class that went by, I would say, thank you. And it was like, their manners are just impeccable. I was so touched by that, and it makes you want to do all the more for them. And I figured with the little thank you Windermere sign up there, we're going to have other people saying, ooh, I want to help out. So I'm hoping that we get some more community people working in that garden, because the people that are running it, they have put so much time and effort into that garden, and it's something that they work on the weekends, during the summer, because our kids help, but you have to keep it going or they've got nothing to work with. So I was just very impressed with everybody that was involved. So, yeah.
Mine's ditto. I'll only say that it has a special meaning for me because this is what I did in my academic career. Every year I would volunteer to herd the PhDs when we had graduation at the University of Washington. I still have my golden cattle prod. I go direct MAs and PhDs to their sessions in Heck Edmondson Pavilion. It got so large toward the end that we had 2 graduation ceremonies interrupted by a free lunch in the skybox, between them. But it always has a great meaning for me. It's such an honor to belong to this board and to serve with all of you. And I got to sign my name as president on those things. This is a real big thing for me, because I really believe in this. I've always, with one exception, I taught at one private university, but I've taught in public universities and I've gone to public schools. And it's just a great honor for me to see these young people coming up. And then, of course, afterwards, I go around to meeting parents. And this is where I get another advantage. I get to stand by these great-looking daughters and this kind of thing and get them pictures. They raised them. They did all the money and all that kind of thing. And I go, I'm asked to do that. And I'm quite happy to lend myself. And there I am by this beautiful young woman, this handsome young man, this sort of thing. And it's just great. One person thanked me for my work for the Builders Club, got us confused. I was decent.
You knew everything.
I was decent enough to indicate I wasn't art. I said, but I support him. And then they recognized who I was. You do indeed. And so by association with art, I felt raised in stature. It was a wonderful event.
ASB is kind of winding down as the school year's winding down. We just lost a group of our seniors at graduation. All my friends left me and it was very sad, but that is okay. We will move on. We are slowly planning homecoming for next year because it is earlier this year, so we've got to get that rolling.
When is it?
It is October 7th.
Oh, that is early.
Yes. So, yeah, we'll have a month to get voting and all that jazz done. So that's all I've been up to. Yeah. Just trying to get classes done, finals and all that stuff.
Before we go on, John, I would like to mention as you know, at our last meeting, we honored Grace for her work. And
Yes.
We have 2 new members that we will be inducting in the August meeting if they're here, in September for sure if they're still on vacation or something. And their names are Ryan Nogus, I hope I said that right, and Spencer Pruitt. And Spencer's here tonight. And you want to say hi? And you all know Spencer because he came and talked to us about the Relay for Life last week, or last month. So maybe when we get to the comments at the end about non-related things, Spencer can kind of give us a update if he's still here about how it went, because he worked so hard on that event.
All right. Well, we are going to do student board minutes. So consent items. I would consider a motion now to adopt the consent agenda unless anyone wants to pull an item for special consideration.
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay, we are now to, well,
The MOU.
we're on 3, aren't we? Yeah, we're now 3, memorandum of understanding, and I'll turn that over to Dan.
Okay, yeah. This and item 4 are related. These are kind of stopgap measures for us, be pending the work that the legislature is doing, because unfortunately they aren't finished yet. And we have RCWs that govern when we can give raises to some groups of employees. And those who belong to an official bargaining unit, a union, like our bus drivers, our PSE, our teachers, we can continue to bargain if we are so fortunate as to be able to after the start of our new fiscal year, which is July 1st. But to the non-represented people, some of the people who, for example, work in the offices, in the business office, et cetera, who don't belong to one of those units, and to our administrators, by our CW, without taking these 2 measures, we would not be able to pass through any raises that come from the legislature for them for a whole year without approving this memorandum of understanding with ANSA, the principals group, and then following that with the resolution for the unrepresented staff. So that's why we're doing those, because we're confident that we will have additional support for compensation for our staff when the legislature finishes. And when that is the case, we want to be able to actually compensate our staff. So
Now, Dan, is this, we got several particulars. Do we vote on,
you have to do them separately, the MOU,
okay,
and then we'll do the resolution.
okay. I would entertain this, this point, a motion to accept the memorandum of understanding.
I'll make a motion to accept the memorandum of understanding.
Is there discussion?
No. We're sharing computers
Oh,
because
that's
there's-
still have
great.
no- I still have no
it's thinking that it might not happen.
Well, if I hear no other discussion, all in favor of approving the memorandum of understanding as Dan has described it, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we're on then to our resolution on unrepresented staff.
What's beeping?
Good.
Huh?
And then
It
we'll-
was a-
I thought it was a
Really?
Okay, so this is related. The MOU was specifically for the principals group and those administrators who are in that group. This resolution allows us to consider additional compensation for the unrepresented members. So those are the folks basically the folks in the district office who don't belong to any of the other, either the principals group or the bargaining group.
Okay, I would entertain a motion at this time to accept resolution 10G17 concerning unrepresented staff.
I'll make a motion that we consider 10G17.
Yeah. Okay, discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now, onto the turf.
Yes, and we are very fortunate to have Mark Swafford, our athletic director, here tonight in this role and also in his role as our facilities. What do we call that? Anyway,
Facility.
our facilities wrangler, probably. But we have, as you can see, we have received a bid through our KCDA group for the turf and some additional part of the field project. And we would like to get started. The company is on standby. I think, should the board approve it, they plan on moving on to the field tomorrow and getting to work. So, Mark, do you want to, Mark can answer any questions or he can give you more details, whichever way.
I think the best is if you have questions, I can attempt to answer them.
Are you happy with this deal?
I'm not happy that everything has gone up so much. But with that said, I'm not sure that we have much choice. If we're gonna get it done, we gotta move. We're not gonna go shop for a better deal. That's just not gonna happen. We went through the KCDA bid process, basically. And we're still going to have a quality turf, hopefully by September 1 when we play Shelton.
Right.
And-
That's what I was wondering.
And, the rest of it will come as we can do it. Everything else can be done, whether we're talking about lights or grandstands, we'll just have to find the time to get those other parts done. That'll make that look like a new stadium, and it will. But this is the first step.
So the lights won't be done by this fall, or they will be?
No, we would use the existing lights.
Okay.
Unless we decided, in the next
Month to bid
month to go find the lights. Basically with the lights, all you're doing is buying I think there's four fixtures that are about $60,000 each. And then getting somebody with the boom truck to get up there and hook them up. We got the electricity, we got the poles, so it's gonna be something that's gonna be fairly quick to go say, yeah, we wanna do this and get it done.
And the same thing with the
The
scoreboard?
scoreboard, yeah, the
Okay.
power's there, and in fact, they won't even use power because it'll be they'll have power, but it'll be a remote thing. We won't have to have it cabled all the way up to the press box up there. You could run it from anywhere.
Okay. So the stadium and the concession stand then will come at a later date?
Yes.
Okay.
We could start the concessions building. It's all designed, so it's a matter of what do they got to do there. We could say, once the field is done, that, hey, during the winter, we'd like to start that building, because it's not going to be in an area that's going to hurt anything, because it's kind of outside the fence on the end down there, so it can be done at any time.
Okay.
The stands are going to be the tough one. You're
Yeah.
going to have to close things down and knock
get
the
them
stands down, build the
Yeah.
new stands, whatever we're going to do now.
And I know we want it done before the September game, but does the company have a ETA for the finalization of
They
the turf?
know that's our target. No.
Just
Bar,
before?
they give themselves more time. They're not going to say, absolutely, we'll be
Yeah.
done, or you penalize us, because this is really short timing right now. So
Yeah.
everything has to go right.
All right.
We've got a groundswell from the public, just want to keep order, so.
I just had one question, Mark. Is it going to be artificial turf from the edges of the track covering everything inside that circle of concrete?
No.
No.
On the ends, outside the goalpost, you have what you call D zones.
Right.
Those are going to be track surface material. Right now, they're grass. Okay, so they're going to asphalt those, put in the long jumps, triple jumps, pole vault areas, so you'll have those in there. And then there'll be the track surface, so the black, rubber. So the only AstroTurf or synthetic field will be inside the actual field part.
And the field will be striped for soccer, football, and lacrosse.
Men's lacrosse and women's lacrosse.
Oh, okay. And
kinds of life.
this part of the project also includes the throwing areas.
Yes.
Yes.
This-
So it's
this
not
bit
just the
includes
field.
Over by the softball field, if you will, where towards the baseball field, that whole area becomes the throws and rather than having them. So there'll be discus throws area, shot put, and javelin. And they'll throw out towards the softball field. Eventually, what we would like to do is get the softball field out of that area, just make it a grass field. Softball field go to the Centrex, where we were going to build the stadium because it's a flat area. And there is a lot of community folks stepping forward and saying, hey, if we have the plans, I can survey, I got a bulldozer, I can put in irrigation, we may be able to piece that thing together and do it as a community project.
Well, great.
I just have another question. Some time ago, I got approached by some community member, a community member, not several, just one, and I talked to Dan about that, and maybe you're the right one to answer this, but is this turf related to that stuff that came out and that people really got worried about causing, I don't remember what it was called.
Cancer.
Right.
Yeah. This is similar, I believe, to the product we have.
It would be exactly the same field we have as a practice field, except for mornings.
I think the key on that is there was a lot of hysteria.
Right.
Some of it may be founded, but there is no data or scientific data to make that connection. And, being a mom, and one of that was something that certainly hit me. I have a friend who has worked with the EPA and other governmental regulating agencies and does testing on those kinds of things related to child safety. That's his job now. So I called him up and said, hey, Fran, because we were getting ready to do our field. And he said, and his response was, and he is a parent of 3 high school athletes. He said, I get more worried when my girls are playing on a grass field, when there's been, when we do fertilizer and other things, then, and they're soccer players too, who are goalies, then when they're playing on that surface. So until there is not, it is a question. There has not been anything to substantiate the claims. In fact, there has been some data that says maybe they're overstated. So I'm pretty comfortable that we have effective and safe surface. And
Right. I bring up the question mostly because out of curiosity. I'm totally on your side there. I also looked at a lot of that research too, just because I had that one community
Yes.
member was badgering me about it. Well, that community member has moved out of the area, and that community member did say, well, we had a long back and forth about it, and I was defending it, and we didn't come to any real thing. He says, well, if my kids are not going to play on that field. And then now he's gone to California, so he's not here. But I just wanted to be prepared for if someone else comes up with that. I'll be saying the same things because I have had a chance to look at the research myself and to come with, pretty much what you're saying, the same thing. And I'm comfortable with it, but I need to be able to have those answers for what field we are having.
And it is an industry standard. It is considered very safe.
There are some other things you could put on it, but they all come with problems.
Even the work, which is a completely natural material, also has some potential health problems. So
There are fields, cork, whatever. I think South Kids have put in like
I think they put in the cork.
it's something that the soccer players say is sharp when they slide on it. And it floats in the water.
Why would they do that? Yeah, and they after they put it in, they did have kind of winter because it all floated and ended up on the track, and they had to put it back.
Push that.
And there's other materials that you start getting the moss will start getting, you can imagine around here, we get lots of moss. So there's other options. One is, it's pretty standard. And everybody's watching the data like you said you read, and so far, it's
Great. Well, anyway, thanks. It's good to know where we're at.
I did have someone contact me about the timelines, and they were concerned about, it's obviously a dad with a football playing son, and he wanted to make sure there was enough storage for gear, and he was thinking there was no way, unless we started right now, to get that field ready in time. So it sounds like we're gonna be ready in time. Is there plans on where to store things and get everything going for September?
Well, they're probably, when you talk about storage, they're probably talking about uniform, player
Yeah.
gear, individual player gear.
I should probably just send you what he sent me.
Right. Well, last year, what we did is we rented a little portable building that we put back by the tennis courts, hooked it up, and it's like a drying room. So you need somewhere to get air and circulate, so it doesn't start smelling really raunchy. But we didn't do that this year because we still have in the community gym, we still have the boys' locker room that has a drying room there. And Coach wasn't too excited about going over there because they have to, go from there to there. And I said, well, I understand you're not excited, but that's where we're going because we have a usable facility over there. We're not going to spend $10,000 to get another building in here and rewire it and all that stuff. So that's what we're doing.
Okay. And then we'd be ready for graduation, obviously, next year.
Mhm.
That was his other concern, so, okay.
That's the hope. We're a lot of cars.
Ah.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
I looked around, saw those cars, I said, wow.
Well, I tried to count them.
Cars?
Tried to count.
We had a good
Last.
handle on how many people were inside them.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, those people will fit over there, but the cars, where do we put all the cars? Well, we do have plenty of space out here and in front and here and down in the student parking lot
Right.
and down below. And then,
And also, some of our turf over here is drivable on for
okay.
some.
And then we have James Taylor parking lot.
Transportation
And we can
building.
Yeah.
shuttle people,
And
I'm thinking,
up and
with
down.
Allen days.
Yeah. And up and down both sides of the road, just like
Like
they
they
did
did
over
the other
there.
day.
Yeah.
We've
Well,
talked
and in
about
front
that.
of,
And we
James
have the church
Taylor,
over here. We've
there's the
talked
other
about
road,
running
too.
buses, from the transportation building, the old district office, to the
Yeah,
church,
yeah.
North Mason Bible Church,
Yeah.
and just have buses, constantly going
Right.
around.
Down the parking lot.
Bringing
giving
people up.
a ride.
So,
I think it's. I couldn't count them all.
there was a-
People were in the way. It was just really hard.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
kept-
Bodies wise, we're fine though, you're right, so.
I should have taken a picture.
Okay, is there any further discussion of the stadium? Oh, did we get a motion on this stadium?
I
turf?
move that we approve the stadium turf installation proposal.
All right, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of item 5, the stadium turf installation has been discussed. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now for our information.
Yeah, so another project that we have in the hopper is the renovations at Mary E. Feller to get ready for our transition to Mary E. Feller Learning Center. As Mark mentioned about the stadium, and we've talked about before with other projects, as the economy strengthens, the cost of building projects continues to get really, really high. And we had a lot of work to do to figure out what exactly had to be done so that we could meet not just code requirements, but all the requirements of Head Start and ECAP, and there is a layer of federal requirements in there, so that we could get our bids. And we got our bids back last week. And we were planning for them to be higher than we originally planned the project to be. And they were a lot higher. So we were very generous in what we were expecting, and we probably needed to be a lot more generous to consider that. So I have been working with our architect, who has been working with the low bidder on some value engineering to see what else we can do, and we're considering how to be able to open our project in the fall, because the costs that as came in that bidded were almost prohibitive. So we have a little more work to do so that I can present something to you that is a project we can move forward with quickly also. So I am asking that we get some discussion from the board about when they might be available for a special meeting as I get the rest of that information that I'm working on the next couple of days together, so that we could discuss next steps and you could vote on whatever proposal we can comfortably recommend at that time. And another part is, because the costs have gone up so high, if we were more comfortable in knowing where we're going to be budgetarily, we might be able to support those higher costs, knowing what's happening with our funding from the state, but we're not. And we need to figure out how to move forward. So I'm working with Ray and with Kathy and looking at all the possibilities we can do so that we can get this done. And in some reasonable way. And so I need to ask that you give us some dates when we might be able to schedule another meeting before our July meeting to decide how to go forward. And I prefer that it be sometime next week.
I'm available any night next week.
Should be
It's fine.
available any night next week.
Okay.
Any night except Tuesday, I have got the MTA meeting that sometimes goes till 6.
Okay.
The
Did you get all
21st.
that, Denise? Okay.
What day did you say you couldn't?
Tuesday, usually the MTA is from 4 to, varies, 4 to 6, but I could get back there and,
Well, we have
45
Monday,
minutes.
we have Monday.
If we can maybe look at Wednesday
sure.
or Thursday. Thursday?
Would be good.
Dinah?
Thursday, I have some doctor's appointments. but
Okay.
Wednesday,
Could
if
you
it's
get here in the evening?
early, but I can't do the evening because it's port meeting that night for me.
You can start at
But we don't
5.
all have to be here, but
It's good if we are.
It's good if we
We-
are.
I do have a question,
good.
and I know we aren't having that meeting just yet, but is it something we could look at for maybe sponsorships from community businesses or something that maybe realtors or someone could jump in and
That would be awesome.
help us out? And I don't know how much help we need until we talk, but
A lot. I'll know more tomorrow
they
morning,
can all be
but
grand sponsors.
yes.
Okay.
Okay,
I might float that out there a little bit and say, hey, there might be a need coming up so that
that would be
we
awesome.
get some funding, at least aware of it.
Okay.
Do you think you could shoot for the 19th? That's a Monday night. Is that too soon?
Yeah, we could do it Monday night. I'm meeting with, I'm talking with Ray and getting some more input
Okay.
so that I can dig in with budget a little more tomorrow. I'm meeting with the ESD, 113, our partner, on Monday morning. So yeah, I would have talked to everybody
Okay.
and gotten any further adjustments I can get by
That would
then.
work for you.
The 19th?
Monday, the 19th.
Okay,
Is this
sure.
just for us, or can other members come?
It's a
members
special-
Oh yeah,
of the community?
anybody can come to our meetings. They're public.
Usual time, 6:30? Okay.
Monday the 19th.
Yeah.
Something's like, I got this new cool schedule app and it's not on here, so it should be open.
I just really got all the feedback yesterday, and with graduation, I haven't had time to process everything and talk to everybody, so. Okay.
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 All right. Thank you. So Denise, Monday night, can we get that posted and that'll work? Okay.
I'd like to request then a telephone call regarding that. I'm having constant internet issues,
Okay,
and I can't guarantee that I'm getting on.
okay.
So,
So have me call you?
or Denise, just to
confirm.
when it's set, the time is set and stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, and then she can leave a message.
all right.
If all else fails, I'd be willing to drive out to your place and deliver a message personally. Okay, well, thanks for the information on that, and we'll see where we're going to go with that. So we're on board development and linkage. I guess we get, and for our budget, and here we get a performance from our own.
Performance.
And maybe her last one, unless she's here
This-
helping our new budget director
We were
in
actually
July.
hoping the new gal was coming today, but she had a work commitment. She's trying to finish up her job as an auditor, and she had something scheduled tonight. So this is just my normal monthly budget status report, and it's very basic, and it's a good one because it's our last budget status with our enrollment, so we kind of know where we ended with that. And it's on the website, and you've had a chance to look at it. And if you look at our actual expenditures and revenues, the revenues are a little lower this month than normal, expenditures are a little higher, but again, it just depends on when the money comes in and how it's spent. But ultimately, we are almost right on budget for our expenditures and our revenues. We're within about $100,000, so we're doing really well there. There's a couple graphs on there that you can look at. Our fund balance for general fund right now is very nice. It's about over $3 million, which is very high, and it's most of that is because we got the income taxes that came in. It's very close to what it was last year this time. It's 3.2 million, and we were at 2.9 million. The average for 3 years is about 2.2 million, so we're doing quite well there. You'll notice for the next 3 months it'll dwindle down because when the I think I've mentioned before, when the apportionment comes, it comes in different percentages every month. So you get a lower percent when the taxes are high, and you get a little bit of a higher percent when the taxes aren't. So in some of those months, we don't even get enough in our apportionment to really cover our expenditures and payroll. So it fluctuates there as well. But right now we're doing quite well. We have a lot of projects coming up in the summer that we're working on. Some facility projects and some things that get put off for the summer because the students are out of school, and it's just easier to get in there and do all of those projects. Our other funds, they're looking good as well. Capital projects is sitting at about 4.8 million. We still have a little bit of state match still left to claim. I think a little teeny bit even on the high school, and probably over $1 million on the middle school. It's just the final claims once they finish the parking area.
And the Grapeview money, is that included in there?
That comes in twice a year.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Grapeview money.
So we'll get that in October?
Well, we'll get it this month. We'll get it in
Okay.
June and December.
Oh, okay.
So we haven't got one of the payments for June yet.
Okay.
And then it just continues to come in through 2018, twice a year. Debt service is about 2.8 million. We made a payment on our debt. That's our bond debt. And so you'll see that in June that will show a heavy decrease. ASB just always sits right about 300,000. It just goes, the revenue comes in and gets spent out. And then transportation, we have about 177,000, and we'll be spending that. We have some buses on order, and we'll be spending that when the buses come. They order the buses, and they take a long time. And then our final page is our enrollment, which is our actual final enrollment count for the year. And this is actually June's enrollment. So again, I had mentioned that we get funded on our average FTE. So average annual FTE, I know is missing an A there. So we get funded on budget, and then once we start getting the numbers in, we get funded on that annualized rate. So our final annualized average FTE is 2,136 students, and we budgeted 2,109. So we budgeted conservatively. We were a lot higher. So we had worked out a little better number for 17-18, and that presentation's coming up soon. So
Did you say 2,136?
2,136 students.
So we really didn't lose that many?
No, we did not lose that many. This month actually, I don't know if I have it. I don't have the actual numbers on here because it's all kind of based on funding.
Does that include the Running Start FTE?
It does.
Okay.
It includes Running Start. That money comes in, but we funnel it right back out. Do you have any questions on the month?
I don't have just a really fun comment. Just that 2,136 is actually a little bit higher than that. It's 1/20th of a student more.
Oh, because of the point?
0.05.
0.05. Someone's hand.
Yeah, he did find that.
Well, I wish we could offer, we ought to give her a round of applause. Maybe she's got something she
I
can do
have
for.
another presentation, just wait. wait for that.
Okay, so we ought to ask, you'd think we'd get an encore or something.
But it is, as you pointed out, it is really good news because our trend over the last several years has been to start higher
Mhm.
and then hit January and start a
dropping.
kind of a dive till the end of the year. And though we still have students graduate early and we still lose seniors to graduation and going up early to so they can get to boot camp or start college or jobs or different things. Last year we started to kind of even that off and not really take that after January dive. We took it a little bit later because we had those early graduations more at the March timeframe. But this year we're ending higher than we started, and that is a definite change. So now it makes it hard for Kathy and for her follow-up person to talk about trends because this may be an anomaly year or we may be starting a different kind of trend, but we won't know for a few years.
And this is more than new building effect?
We don't know.
That could be part of it.
It's coming and going. The kindergarten is kind of all over the place and.
But the other thing is like the available housing in Kitsap County is down near 0%. I mean, the realtors are constantly talking in the newspapers. We get the business newspapers and stuff about how that's almost non-existent. And so families are looking for good places to have houses, and we have some.
Not very many.
No, and we kind of have the same problem,
the
but
same
it's
problem.
not quite as bad yet, is what I understand.
I had a house go on the market last month, and in 6 hours, we had 3 offers.
Right.
And you feel bad because there's other 2 people, they're all from our community, and they're all just trying to get that first-time home, and that's really challenging.
Yeah.
And those are the ones usually have our kindergartners and first graders, and
It's so worth right now pulling an RV up on a piece of land and just waiting for having enough funds to build, just to get yourself a spot, right? People are doing that on our road, so.
Okay.
Okay, that brings us, I believe, to community linkage planning.
Are you done with that?
We have-
Teaching and learning.
Where'd I go?
Still on superintendent's report.
Okay.
This is her stuff.
Oh, we're here, teaching and learning.
Yes.
There we go.
So one thing I wanted to emphasize was that North Mason High School just completed their accreditation process. It's a year-long process. We are involved in a new process this year. So instead of being managed by a company from the Midwest, our accreditation process is now managed by a coalition of ESDs. So the final step of the accreditation process, the North Mason High School administration, Chad Collins and Mr. Smithers, had to go present to a room full of ESD superintendents their data from the process and what they had done and how the school had grown and improved and what steps they're going to take next. So it was very successful. They were commended for their work and the work of the team. The goals that they are focusing on for next year are to grow opportunities for family and community involvement in not just activities in the school, but in processes and decision-making kinds of things as well. And also with their staff, they're going to take a deep dive and look at, they've been looking at the things like the 9th grade failure rate, but they're really going to look at it in a deeper, richer way and make some changes in things to address that. Because we're very fortunate, our students, because of our schedule, and part of the reason I believe that North Mason adopted the kind of schedule we did when we did, our students have opportunities to make up for not doing so well. You know, in many high schools with the graduation requirement at the state at 24 credits, and in many high schools, they only have the opportunity to achieve 24 credits. And within the normal school year. At North Mason, even though we require 27 rather than the state minimum of 24, our students actually over a regular 4-year enrollment period have the opportunity to earn 30. So there is some room for mistakes in there and still be able to graduate successfully. But ninth grade failure rate, regardless of that, is still something that it's now going to be part of the state report card. So it's something that we want to look at, even though our kids can technically afford to mess up a little bit more and still be successful, that we're being compared with schools where they can't. So we want to address that too, because we also know, even though we've built a schedule that provides that opportunity, the more you fail, and as an adolescent particularly, but it works for grown-ups too, sometimes the harder it gets to see that you can succeed. And so we don't want, we want to address that in ninth grade so that kids are not developing a lack of resiliency or a feeling of I can't get it done. So I'm really proud of the team for addressing that, and they have some really great plans to work with their school community on that as we move into next year.
I saw a bill from Chris Reichel that came through the legislature. They're working on that right now. That some of those requirements that are keeping, like, I think it's about 3,000 children from graduating, are going to be addressed.
I know.
And it looks like there's a lot of bipartisan support. So I was really good seeing that come through, and that everyone's jumping on board and seeing that we've got some needs we have to address and some timelines.
And I think that's really important, because when you look at like our school, we have a growing number of, we have all sorts of reasons kids struggle, but one of those is we have a growing number of kids who are newcomers and are coming to school maybe for the first time in high school in America, but it also is sometimes the first time in a school setting because of where they're coming from. So not only are they learning a new language, they're learning school and how to do it, and they only have 4 years, and our kids who have been in North Mason the whole time have had 13 years to get to graduation. So we want to make sure that we support everyone and they have those opportunities. And we are very proud of the fact, and I right before graduation, it was one of the things I always check on too. We don't have any kids, like in many schools around the state, where the state testing is keeping them from walking. All of our kids had, if they didn't pass the test, were able to take advantage of one of the alternatives, and were supported through that. So we had no kids that didn't walk if the only thing that was holding them up was passing a test in English and language arts or math or science.
Excellent.
So we're very proud of that.
Oh, all right.
Okay, and then another couple of really quick things. I don't know where else to slide it in here, so I'm going to put it here. I wanted to just recognize one piece of information that we got in the last week was that Jay Holberg, who's retiring, and we recognized last week at the retirement ceremony, was also just inducted into the Washington State Baseball Coaches Hall of Fame, right? So that was very cool. All right.
All right.
Capital projects we have kind of talked about in many other ways. So we have some little projects that we're working on that don't fall under the bond dollars, but they're still capital improvements that we're doing. So those things will be happening over the summer. Some of them are those kinds of things that Kathy talked about, some things that we need to do when there aren't kids around. So now that everything else up here is getting updated, the water towers are getting painted, and that includes the water tower at Sand Hill. The parking lot, the back parking play area at Belfair has had some pretty significant cracking over the winter, so that's going to get fixed. We're going to fix that drainage problem on the front side, I wish I could speak tonight, of the Belfair building. So those are the kinds of things that are also happening. Okay. Kathy, the next thing we have up again is your next report.
There she goes. This is the encore.
Here's the exciting stuff. So Denise is going to pull this up so you can kind of follow along. What I have for you tonight is a very, very preliminary budget proposal. And I think I've been talking about the budget and not really knowing, we don't really know what to do with the budget. The legislature still has a couple more weeks to come out with their funding sources. And so we decided to just kind of look at it, knowing what we know staffing-wise, since that's most of our budget, to kind of just use that and take the rest of what we actually received last year, or what we would get if there was no new money, and just kind of make a very preliminary budget off of that. So that's what I have here and what I'll show you. I put it in this format just to make it a little easier for next month, because next month in July we will have to have a public hearing, and we will have to have a budget available for the public. And I thought it'd be a little easier to just kind of see this as a preliminary, and then we'll just update it when we get the information, because I am confident that we will have a budget by the next school board meeting. So again, this is very preliminary. Just kind of what a budget is. It's just an actual, or an annual financial plan for a school district. It's required by the state of Washington, has to be formally adopted every year by the school board. And it covers the fiscal year, which our fiscal year is September 1st through August 31st. Typically, the budget is due out to the public by July 10th. But when the legislature, which we're now in a biennium, when they're not able to come to agreements or figure out what they need to do, and this is a very tough year because they're being tasked with actually fully funding. The OSPI, which is the Office of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, has the ability to extend that. And so they actually did come back and say we have until now on July 17th to have our budget available to the public. I've spoken with the superintendent, and we have decided to just present it by the school board meeting on the 15th, I believe it is, of the, or maybe it's I think it is the 15th. I don't think it's on the 17th. That would be.
No, it's not the 15th.
In July, the July school board. So that's what our plan is there.
20th.
Is it on the 20th?
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
the
That's the
20th.
third Thursday.
Oh, wow. I can't keep my months straight. So our budget that I'm presenting has 5 funds. We have a general fund, which is our biggest fund, and that is what we actually pay almost all of our bills out of. We have an associated student body fund, which is really a fund that's used for the students. They usually do have fundraisers, and they collect money, and then they spend it on extracurricular or after-school activities. We have a debt service fund, and that fund is used only to pay debt. We use that fund to pay our bonds, and we also transfer money from our other funds to pay non-voted debt. So for instance, we had the buses that we transferred money out of the transportation fund. We transfer it to the debt service fund to be able to pay it. And we have some non-voted debt that will move out of the general fund to the debt service fund to pay that. We have a capital projects fund, which is used for really for capital building typically, or very capital large projects, which usually have to do with buildings or parking lots. And then we have the transportation vehicle fund, which can only be used for yellow school buses. The primary areas where we work to protect and to keep intact are certificated and our classified positions. We are in an area of teacher shortages. There are not a lot of teachers, so we were able to this year give our teachers a little extra money that was contractually put into their contract. It was a 2-year contract, so it went up a little bit this time. And we're now also negotiating with our classified union, PSE, which is kind of on hold until we hear some of the legislative to be able to kind of see what we can do to help them and to keep our classified staff. We wanted to continue our coaching model. We have we have actually 3 instructional coaches that we use to help professional development for our teachers, and it's been working very well, and we've had very positive feedback from our teachers about that. We want to also make sure our curriculum adoption cycle stays intact. The state, or I guess it's the state, so I'm not real curriculum minded, but there are requirements to have different curriculum adoptions and cycles of when you have this specific curriculum for like grade 3 reading or this for grade 7 math. So that is something that we want to make sure that we don't get out of date. Sometimes it's a very easy thing to kind of lose that adoption cycle, and then you're stuck with books from 1992. So we're paying close attention to that, which also that integrates very well with technology updates, because now everything is on technology, and now some of the curriculum is actually on technology, but the only way to get that curriculum is to have computers in the rooms or to have the network infrastructure. So we're working really hard to make a cycle for technology as well. And then, of course, the thing that always falls off the radar is increasing the upkeep on our facilities. So we have all these brand new facilities. We want to make sure that we are able to support that. We've found that with bigger buildings and bigger, prettier bushes comes a lot of weeding, a lot of cleaning. So things that you don't think about, that maybe one custodian cannot clean all of this. So we're trying to keep up and make sure that we have our eye on everything. So our budget and enrollment for 2017-18, and we talked about that a little bit. Superintendent Rosenbaugh and myself kind of go around and around sometimes about enrollment, because I have these trending models that we just should not have this many kids. It just shouldn't happen. There's nothing to say that they should be here. We're supposed to be going like this with enrollment, and we're kind of going like this. So we did come to a nice, and again, this is preliminary. I'm pretty sure that it'll stay where it is, but a nice round number. You'll see on here that we have the FTE in here for each actual school. So we have about over 400 at both our elementaries, Hawkins Middle School about 467, and then the high school about 634. We have our alternative, or James A. Taylor School, always runs about 50. Sometimes it goes down to 20. Well, we always fund it about 50. Sometimes it's about 20. Sometimes it can be 40, and it kind of fluctuates throughout the year. So we keep that one usually pretty steady with the budget. And then Running Start about 59, which has been going a little higher this year than normal.
FTE this year is like 76.
Yeah, it went really high. So it's really hard because some of the bigger classes are, fall off, and then we have some smaller classes coming up. So it's just kind of a numbers.
Next year's senior class is the biggest one for a while, and there are a lot of students in that class that are enrolled in Running Start. So
yeah, and some go to Running Start and find that it's not what they think they want to do, and then they come back. So we're estimating about 2127 for our FTE for 17-18. If you remember, it was about 2136 is what we ended up with our annual. So we started the year a lot higher than that, and then it kind of went down a little bit, and that's where it averaged at 2126. So, and then last year we budgeted 2109. Our revenues, I'll just talk about this a little bit. We're estimating for our local taxes, that's our levy money that comes in, about $4.5 million. And then our local revenues, that's money that comes in, food service money, it's money that comes in from facility rentals and donations, interest on our bank accounts. It's just money that comes in from no particular source. Fines and fees, art classes. That's almost about $300,000 we're estimating. Our state general purpose, that's our apportionment and our special ed apportionment. The apportionment is what's funded to us on a prototypical funding model. We're assuming, unless that changes for the next school year, this is based on this year's prototypical funding model. And that's where the state says we think that you need this much money, or this is how much staffing we'll give you on an average high school or elementary school that we think might have 600 kids in it. So it's a little more complicated than that, but that's the model there. And then the special ed apportionment is actually part of the basic education apportionment, but it's pulled out based on the number of projected special education students that we have, and it has a little bit of enhancement. That's why it's pulled out of that number. So our state general purpose is about $19 million in revenue that we should be receiving. Our state special purpose is just money that comes in, and it's usually, it is based on, a lot of it based on our poverty level and free and reduced lunch level. And it is money that's given to us. Some of it's just given and some of it is applied for. And like for instance, the transportation or the highly capable, and it has to be used for those specific purposes. So if you get money for transportation, it has to be spent on getting kids to and from school. So that it has a special purpose for that. And that's about 4.3 million for all the special purpose. We also then have the federal general purpose, which is money that comes into us. The impact aid money, which probably everyone is familiar with. The nice forms that go home, usually in November, October and November. And then we have those for special ed. We estimate about 40,000 in revenue for that. It could be higher, it could be lower. Sometimes we're not sure what's going to happen with that money, so we were just fairly conservative there. And that money can be used for anything when it comes in, and that's based on the students bringing back the cards for us to be able to claim it from the federal government. That's why it's very important. It's a lot of money. And then the federal forest money is money that's, it's money that we get for having land in our area that it has federal forest on it. So this year, for this biennium, for these last 2 years, this year and the year before, we were actually able to keep that money, but typically that was just something that they had written into the legislature. Typically that money is just taken directly off of our apportionment. So it comes in and goes right back out. The same with the state forest money, but this year we got to keep it, so that was an added bonus. We don't know about next year yet, because we haven't heard anything about that.
And if I may interject, I know some of our legislators, Mr. Griffey and Mr. McEwen, are working with hopefully next year, once we get through all of this stuff this year, to help districts like ourselves be able to keep our state forest money, because from our perspective, that would kind of balance where there are some other districts that have more money because they have more tax base, so they have a little bit more flexibility in some of their funds that we don't have. Our state money that we get is roughly about $250,000. In some years it's been even as much as $500,000. And so we get credited with that, but then they say, oh, well, we don't need to give you as much apportionment because of that. So it's like we don't get that money. So our representatives are going to work on that in the next
I
session.
think they're timing themselves.
Yes, they are. So we're very glad that they are.
So our federal general purpose is about 80,000, and then we also have a federal special purpose, and that's mostly all of our grants and our food service and our commodities, things that are actually applied for through the federal government. That also most of it is based on free and reduced poverty rating for us, and those all have stipulations. Those are all very drilled down what you can and cannot spend them on, those dollars, and that's almost $2 million for the special purpose.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So we are giving free lunches to both elementary schools. Is there anything that's going to keep us from continuing to do that?
We're continuing to do all the paperwork for this.
Okay, well, we don't really know.
I'm pretty
We're
sure
planning
that-
on continuing.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it was a 4-year commitment.
Okay, I wasn't
Yeah.
sure with everything changing at the national level where that
They
fell.
have not yet attacked that program. We're keeping a close eye.
Okay.
And we actually, we weren't sure at first. I know my first year here, and Michelle Waller, the food service director, it was her first year when that program came in. And it scared me a little, because I'm, oh.
She told me I was nuts.
Because typically, all I've ever heard is it's just a money loser. And so the first year, it was hard because we had a new food service director. And so we were actually really close to budget, so it wasn't too bad. This year, we're a little bit over, but I don't really know until the end of the year, because With food service, at the end of the year, we have to take a lot of things that were charged to food service, and we have to take them out of food service because they get charged there, that's where they belong, and then we have to take them out. So we don't really know where we end up till the end of the year, like for instance, commodities, and we get all of these value. You get this and you have to do the value of that. So I don't think it's going to be too awful. So it's really been a good.
So is it easier to budget when you know that we have this many students and that's how much food we make instead of trying to figure out who's decide to have it that day or not have it that day?
No, because food service is basically mostly funded on after the fact, reimbursable meals.
Oh, okay.
So you get the money after the student does it. So what we want to do is we want to encourage all of the students, because we still do count. We want to encourage them all to get a free meal, free breakfast and free lunch, because those counts do count, even though they're all getting them for free.
Okay.
But some kids do still bring their lunch. So we really want all of them to eat. That would be more beneficial to us.
It's good to hear that it's more successful than, scary.
It was, and it's worked really, really well. I rave reviews. I think Michelle has done a great job, and the food has been good, and she gets them to eat it, and they do a lot of cooking from scratch, which helps keep the costs down.
Yeah.
I know the end of the year goes way up because parents are like down to their stop going to the store and getting, all the lunch things that you have to put together. Like my kid is really picky, but I said, no, you're eating for the rest of the year. Like 2 months ago, I said, the rest of the year you got to eat at school. And he's really mad at me, but.
Well, and we know, we went to lunch.
Yeah, we got to go to
with
Hawkins.
students,
That was
and it
really good.
It was good.
It's not like the elementary school.
A little different, yeah.
Well, it's different at each level.
Yeah.
There's more flexibility as the kids get older and what's
Yeah.
available.
Yeah, I really like that a la carte thing, where they get to come and actually have a salad bar. Yeah, that's
Oh,
pretty neat.
nice.
Yeah, that was really cool.
So at the end of it all with the revenues, the last pot of revenues that we get are revenues from other districts. We have some special ed students that come in from other districts that we support. Maybe they don't have any occupational therapy, so they'll come here, and then we get a little revenue from that district, pays us for taking care of their students, which helps offset the cost of our teachers. And then our non-high students participation, the non-high money that comes in. And then private foundation grants. I was trying to think without looking what this is. It was a small grant. I think it was a exemplary sexual thing.
It's the Ishi grant.
Ishi.
Yeah, the exemplary.
It has a
sexual
very long
grant
name, and I
that
get
we
it wrong
got
every
from-
time. And it was just money that somebody had given, and it flows through OSPI for a private grant, and they dole it out. So that's about $180,000, all of that revenue. So our total revenues, this is where I really wanted to talk about, is about $25,665,000 for the revenues. And then underneath that, I put in $1 million. This would be assuming that we would have to adopt a budget before we got any legislation back. Because what'll happen is if we don't have a capacity, a very large capacity, if the legislature comes back and says, we're going to give everybody, a $20 raise, and we're, instead of $25 million, we're going to give you $26 million, because we'd like to say 30, but they won't. So if they give us if they give us $26 million instead of 25, we have some capacity built in, because as a school board, you're approving our budget and you're approving our expenditures. And if we go 1 penny over our expenditures, we have to come back and do a budget extension. So it's just easier to put in $1 million, and you'll find the same $1 million on the expenditure side. So it's just a wash. It's just a number in there to keep. Yeah. If we couldn't spend the $1 million unless we got the $1 million.
Yeah, right.
So so it's about 25 million, and then 26 with that. Now the expenditures were a little bit harder to calculate, and it's just because putting them in different pots, where I usually like to have a little bit better show of where the money's going to go. As you can see, this is what we have figured with all of our increased teacher days that we were able to negotiate 2 years ago for this year. We have about $20 million with certificate and classified salaries with benefits. And benefits are mostly retirement. We have, all of our legalities. We have workers' comp. We have all of our taxes and Social Security that we pay. And as employers, we pay a lot. So you can see that 20 million is a lot of our, a large part of our budget. And then all I did is just take the non-salary expenses. So the $5,416 is really the amount that we're going to have to play with if the legislature comes in with some money. The certificated salaries and benefits has a little bit of wiggle room if we have to move people around, or if somebody doesn't show up, or we have a little bit of attrition. This is kind of where we think it's going to be for next year. The non-salary would be all of our curriculum and our technology and any professional development and really everything except for salaries. So next month you'll have a little bit better picture of what we'll be spending that on or where we're allocating that for expenditures. So our total expenditures are about $25,744,000, and then we have $1 million capacity. So that puts us at about $26,744,000. And if you go to the next page, you'll see that we also have out of our expenditures, what isn't, it's actually accounted for in a separate line item, is what we're going to have to pay next year for our non-voted debt. Mm-hmm. So we have about $300,000 of non-voted debt that we're going to be paying for this stadium non-voted debt. And then the $93,500, a little less than that maybe, is non-voted debt that we already had before that. Okay. So that was for some energy upgrades that we did. Some of those will be falling off in a couple of years, so that'll be nice and beneficial when we get into the later years after the Great View payments. So with that, we have an ending budget in the negative of $78,000. So this is just saying that we're going to have more expenditures than we're going to bring in as revenue. But if you remember, we have a very healthy fund balance. We don't think this is going to happen. We're sure we're going to get more money. So in the worst case scenario, we would take $78,000 out of our fund balance.
Which is over $3 million.
Which is over $3 million. So we talked about this a lot in Cabinet as a group, and would have loved to get it to be zero or to have a positive ending, but we don't want to cut too much. We have things that have to get done. So the projected fund balance for the 17-18 school year, I believe we're probably going to end up about $2 million, but it could be a little bit higher than that. And I only say that because we're going to have a little bit of a reduction in apportionment payments, and we have a lot of projects happening. So this is worst case scenario. We should end up about 200,000, or I'm sorry, 2 million. 200,000 would be over. And almost 1 million of that is the 4% board policy. And then we have about $1 million in excess, which keeps us at about $2 million, and which is a nice number. It would cover a month of expenses if we needed to ever use that. If for some reason we didn't get an apportionment payment in July, we would have enough to cover it for a month. It's just a nice number, and it keeps us off a financial watch from the auditor. So it's a good number to have. And then just real briefly, after that, the ASB budget. They're probably going to start about 318,000 because they love that 300,000. They just kind of float there. Our debt service will probably start about $1.1 million in 17-18, and that basically is where we're at now, less the bond payment that just happened that you'll see next month. And then capital projects fund, we're probably gonna end up about 4.5 million, which is pretty close to what we have now. It could be a little bit smaller, I'm not sure how much more that we'll actually be paying on Hawkins, but or on the high school, or
Stadium,
no,
this is charades.
That's what I was thinking.
the charades, it's charades. The area that you walk down onto, that they're, with the flags.
Oh, the flag.
The plaza.
There.
The
That's that
plaza.
You're pointing there, it's over
Oh,
there.
yeah, it's over there. I'm thinking I'm in my office. Plaza, yeah, the plaza.
Okay.
So we have a little bit of state match that we can still get back for that. So that should maybe offset some of the expenditures that we make in the next few months. But capital projects are usually a month or so behind, so some of it might not get paid until later on for this month. I had a cup of coffee at 5 o'clock.
You're doing fine.
And then our transportation vehicle fund should not change. It'll be about 177,000. I don't expect that we'll pay for the buses probably until, well, actually, that's not true. I think I wasn't thinking about that. We're going to get a depreciation payment in the end of August. So it's about 300,000, so we'll probably have about 477. And we have, I think they're gonna get 3 buses and get those taken care of. Yep, but they have them pretty much on order to be delivered later on, because remember how long, I think that last time it took, gosh, 8 months to get that. So do you have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
I'm just trying to understand the ASB budget a little bit better. I think I have it figured out, but just wanted to double check. It's always 300, something like that, which I've seen over the years. But my understanding is, and so correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
It's the kids are raising money and they're putting it into the ASB, their ASB budgets, all the different clubs and other activities they do. And so in effect, they're not spending a budget that was given to them all at once and then having to have it replaced all at once. It's being replenished all the time.
Well, and you're right. So ASB is a little bit different. It's a little bit different than our other funds. And first of all, they do have a budget, but their budget is done by the students, and they work with their advisor and with their teams, and they make a budget of what they think they're going to spend, what they think they might have to transfer. There's some general pots of ASB that they collect that they use to help out some of the clubs. So sometimes maybe you have a art club over here and maybe they don't make enough money, so they'll maybe get a little support from the general ASB. So they'll have to say, well, we think we're going to get this much revenue and we want to do these 4 things and we won't have enough, so we'll ask the general ASB. So they have to plan this whole thing out. But ultimately, the ASB budget is money in, money out. There's no other way for it to come. It comes by fundraising.
So there's...
Or donations.
There is, or is not then an apportionment
No, there is
given
not.
to them? Okay,
No.
that's what I thought.
Yeah, there is not. It's a
Right.
donation or it's a fundraiser.
So that's why it stays. We don't ever see it zero out.
Right.
Right.
And it'll always stay, but, and I tell you about the budgeting part because that's the part that they do, but the PTA and the boosters and groups like that give, for Kiwanis, they give to the ASB and they donate it there, and then it becomes a school-sponsored event, and then they're able to spend it out. So most of the time, in and out, in and out, in and out.
Right.
Now, what I show you is for all ASBs. It's
Right.
just one big pot. So the elementary schools, it is monitored by the principal. So the principal is the one that's able to push that out. And they stay pretty steady. They don't do any fundraising. It's really the high school that really has the really big balance. And they get interest on their money. So.
Right. I see that, on the Builders Club level, which is middle school, we try to not have the ASB have to give us any money. They did this year for once, first time ever.
Good.
Well, we took it. In any case, but we raise, the Builders Club raises their money, some of it from Kiwanis, but the fundraisers they do, and it goes in. And then it's, what's not spent is carried over. That's why we don't see the ASB ones, that's carried over, because that's why it never zeroes out.
Right, and you don't see that, but the ASB, they see it. So every, at the beginning of the year, they see their budgets, they see what they have left, and then they are able to then determine after it's rolled over of what is left. I mean, it's pretty constant all the time. 300,000.
Thanks. Then another question I have is and maybe the superintendent's the right one to answer this one, on the non-high funds that we get, like from Grapeview, not capital stuff. What happens, or is it, if one of our North Mason kids goes to Clahowya, for example? Do we have to pay a non-high
No.
to them?
We are a high school district, so they just go and they can go to
And then they
Clahowya.
count-
We just don't get to count them as a student. The non-high payment is for the K-8.
Right,
If-
right.
If you, so Grapeview, if the 8th grader that graduates comes to North Mason, or is usually in our boundaries, but comes to North Mason, that's where the portion of that comes. It's based on a number. That's
Okay,
my
and so this is
understanding.
a little bit, not, well, it's pertinent to me. So let's say 40 kids come from Grapeview to here, so Grapeview pays for 40 kids, and let's say 15 kids go to Shelton, do they pay Shelton for those 15?
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, and so then the part about the designated school district for the non-high schools is a capital function.
Yes, that's related to, like when we
Building the high school.
do the
and
building,
right,
or
them
like,
having to pay their portion of it. They don't have to do that to Shelton. even though
That's
they send
based
the
on
kids.
tax values. That's not.
well,
Yeah,
but
I
no, but
understand that.
it's based on, there's a boundary for that, and that's why there's some controversy right
Oh,
now
right, yeah.
in the Pioneer District, particularly, and a little bit Hood Canal District, regarding, because they are in that catchment to
Right.
have to pay part of the
Right.
building.
But Grapeview,
And
even though
Grapeview
they
is in
send a
ours.
few kids to Shelton, doesn't have to pay for Shelton's new high school because we are the
Right.
designated high school area.
So they have to contribute to our high school, even if some of the kids go there. And Pioneer right now has to contribute to Shelton, even though there are quite a few kids that come here for high
Right.
school.
But then that school district gets to decide which one of the other, the high school districts they can designate as their major one, isn't that correct?
No, that's decided
That's
for
decided
them.
by the state.
It's
Oh,
decided,
okay.
that's decided by boundaries, but if you decide that you don't want, if your child is in the Grapeview boundary and you want them to go to Shelton.
Yeah, that I got. I was
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
of just the global part.
No.
The paying part is decision.
That's state decision.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it, thanks.
And right now, it's kind of set up, if you make changes to any of those things, you have to get all the districts that would be impacted, all of their boards have to vote to approve that. And then it has to be approved by any ESDs that are involved, and then by the state. It's a very complicated process.
Especially in our area, because aren't we 114 and 113?
Yeah.
Right there in the middle of this.
Yeah. So like if we were to change something about that and pull some more kids in or whatever, some more property, our ESD would have to say yes. ESD 113 would have to say yes. Any school districts involved, boards would have to vote yes, and then OSPI would have to approve it.
Okay, thank you.
I thought it was a very clear presentation, and if someone asked me about some aspect of the budget, I think this would be just an excellent outline to describe the kinds of things that we're doing. So for your encore, I greatly appreciated the clarity we have come to expect from you, and this was no different.
Well, I would have preferred to give you a little more information on expenditures, and I know that sometimes I don't like to muddy it too much, but it's just very, very brief, but you'll get that next month. Thank you.
Also want to say thanks for your work on the audit.
Oh, you're welcome.
Even though I didn't get to participate this year, I really like to do that participation on the entry. We're back to no findings.
No findings.
Good, so good job, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We gotta clap for him, John, Mr. Chance.
No. Well, okay, we are, I guess we will comment briefly on the, well, we're at linkage and planning at this point, am I correct?
Yes.
So, we can make ourselves aware of all the things that are going on for the good of the order. There's going to be the Victor Flea Market this Saturday, and that will be open despite the difficulty with the roads. People coming from the south will have difficulty here, but others coming here, and just consider that a little announcement. This is an area that's in our group. They are people more of my age. They always need to be encouraged to vote correctly when it comes to bonds. So it would be very nice to go and see their event, which always will give you, this will be a great year because not everybody will be able to get there.
You just take the scenic route.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there we go, there we go. Okay, North Mason columnists, we got July, no article. We're still going to stay with that. We're not going to do any.
Yes, we're going to
Okay.
stay with that.
All right, and so Laura and Dinah?
Question on that. Last month, it was, my name was on the September one. And I'm wondering, I mean, I have no problem with Diane.
You think you've been bounced?
Well, maybe I have been, which might be a good thing.
I don't know. I rely on Denise to, and not that I'm blaming.
Totally throwing you under the
But
bus.
Denise tells me who I'm supposed to remind to do that, so.
Well, in any case, well, I'm happy to leave it that way, because I probably will have to move off of September anyway for other
Okay.
reasons. But
Yeah, I
just
think
wanted
that-
to bring that up, that, you know, I noticed that I was taken off.
Well, it's largely
Do you
what we
want to
get
switch
from-
with Dinah then?
Well, I'm assuming
If you
I
can't do
would be.
September?
So why don't we just leave it as it is
Okay.
here then, and,
Until you
Yeah.
get closer and.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, while we're doing some announcements, a recent development just started getting advertised towards the end of last week, but I think it's a really cool thing. The PTA at Hawkins tomorrow night is sponsoring an event. It's a bingo for school lunches. So they're raising an event to help pay off the lunch accounts for any kids who have outstanding balances, because you know we do have the free lunches for all elementary, but we don't have that at the secondary level, and it's a really cool event. They're advertising it on Facebook primarily, and it sounds like they have lots of cool things happening. And prior to that, the ASB is doing a dance and a kind of party for families and community. So check out Hawkins tomorrow night.
Oh. Okay, we got that settled, and we're down to section 8, assurance of organizational performance and policy, and we now have the monitoring reports. So I guess I would entertain a motion on our section E4, school engagement, and the 3 reports we have there, particularly the monitoring report.
So I would like to
entertain a
move
motion.
that we find the superintendent's performance on E4, school engagement, to be compliant with.
Okay, is there discussion?
Brief think. Thank you for putting the Builders Club in there. That's it.
Okay.
I particularly, and I think my colleagues have commented on this and other times, appreciate the detail of the report. And if there were any questions from the public, we have a very detailed response. So that gives us great confidence. Any further discussion about the E4, school engagement? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay, this brings us to the adjournment section, announcements and comments. The public.
I do have, and it's kind of fits in that meeting and public events. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, June 26, 27, 28, we are holding the Girls Sports Experience again at North Mason High School. Last year on our first go-through, we had about 80 kids, and I certainly hope that we blow that out of the water this year with all the good comments that we had. So again, we are going to charge a very small fee this year, $20 for 3 days worth of babysitting, basically, for the kids. But we have all of our coaches in line and looking for a great event.
And what time?
Encourage-
What, is it all day?
It's, they get they're dropped off 8:45 and they're picked up at 12:45.
Okay.
And looking for little girls, grades 2 through, current grades 2 through 7. And the forms are in the offices right now, so they're starting to come in.
So second graders this year, or people going into second grade?
This year's second graders.
Okay, sorry, I just had
Yeah,
to.
Going
correct
into
your-
It gets
to going into
Correct
confusing
your
in this
grades.
little time period.
Yep. And so, looking for those little kids, and they had a grand time last year.
Okay, yes, Don.
I just, having been on the board a long time ago, Kathy gave a much better explanation of the budget than I ever understood when I was on the board. Much better job.
Here, here.
Ashley's got some big shoes to fill.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's to announcements and comments. Board and superintendent.
Well, I did want to let you know a couple things. I do want to, before we get all done, ask Spencer to tell us a word or two about Relay for Life. It was going really well during the time I was there overall. I also wanted to let you know, as Kathy mentioned, one of the things, we have more stuff to take care of. And one of the things you approved in the personnel report to help us take care of those things over the summer was some temporary help in the maintenance and outdoors, and they're already underway, helping getting things beautiful and weeded and mowed and everything, so we're really glad that we did that. And then also I did just want to highlight the outstanding work that our team did this year on the audit. In fact, there were some highlights that I wanted to make sure that not just you all heard about. Obviously, we had no findings, which is outstanding, but particularly they noted that the office coordinator at Hawkins Middle School and the sports office coordinator at North Mason High School, dealing with the ASB funds, were particularly were very organized, knowledgeable, and accommodating, and very helpful. And they were, as auditors do, they didn't want to give too much time, so they just popped right in and asked their questions right there, and our staff was able to respond, and they were very impressed. Also, they wanted to commend Kathy and the finance office staff for their helpfulness and working with them throughout the process, and that they appreciated the district's willingness and desire to continue improving controls and learning from past audits and moving forward and asking questions and being proactive about meeting new requirements. So it was a very positive audit, and I'm very proud of our team for the work they do so that that was the outcome.
Good.
All right. This is very important for our job, I just want to say, because of people legitimately ask us, where's our money going? And this is very important because we are the trustees, my colleagues and I, of the people's money. And when we have a superintendent that makes the brilliant hiring choices that she does, we get reports like this, and our people deserve reports that are this clear and this good about our joint stewardship of their money. So I'm just very pleased on behalf of our constituents. This is just wonderful news. Oh, we're going to hear the gentleman over there. Let's hear about Relay for Life and how it went.
So Relay for Life went really good. We ended up, I think we'll end up about 40 grand, so about the same as last year.
Good.
And it was really good for the really bad weather we had Friday night.
Yeah.
So I think next year we're definitely going to work on trying to move Relay after when school gets out, just to have better weather
Hmm.
And we're excited next year, and we're already working on rebuilding our relay and trying to get a little better committee. And we're excited to hopefully be back up at the high school.
Good.
Are you planning to do it again yourself?
Yeah, I think I'm planning until I graduate.
All right.
Nice.
Thank you very much for that, and that brings us to our board self-assessment, and it doesn't say who's, oh, there you are. Yes.
Okay, so it says, asked if the agenda was well planned to focus on the real work of the board, and I would say that was satisfactory. The board followed its agenda and did not allow itself to get sidetracked. We did really good this time. I mean, better than normal. Board members prepared for and contributed to the meeting. That's satisfactory. The meeting proceeded without interruptions or distractions, and I would say that we were pretty good at staying on target. The board's deliberation and decisions-making process were public, absolutely. Participation was balanced. All participated, no one dominated, true. Members listened attentively, avoiding the side conversations, and we did really good this time.
Except for the computer thing here.
Anyway, work was conducted in an atmosphere of trust and openness. I would say that was true. And meeting participants treated each other with respect and courtesy. Yes, and you were very much on top of congratulating people and making sure everyone knew how appreciated they were. So the board actions occur at the policy level rather than the operational level. Yes. The board reviews policy about each topic before discussing that issue. I'd say yes. And I love that our agendas are so detailed, because when Kathy comes in, every question I had when I was reading through it privately at home, she just answers them all. I'm just like, oh, all right then. In writing additional policies, the board starts with a broad statement and becomes more detailed in a logical and disciplined sequence. I would say so. The board minimizes time spent monitoring past performances. Yes. The board routinely dedicates time to reviewing and improving its own process. I would say we definitely do. The board clarifies priorities, values when considering potential outcomes. Yes, in fact, that would be signified by the meeting we're having on Monday, making sure that we are staying where we want to stay, and when things go out of budget, we work on making sure we can still do it as best we possibly can. And I love being proactive and not having to play catch up. I've never known us to play catch up like, uh-oh, something bad happened, now what do we do?
Yeah.
So the board follows an annual calendar based on a plan for doing its work. True. The board chair helps the board efficiently conduct its meeting. True. And the board spends most of its time deliberating issues, defining and clarifying its vision, and linking with its community as opposed to fixing things. True. Although the Windermere thing, I did get to fix some of the weeding stuff. So. The board supports the superintendent in any reasonable interpretation of its policies, and I would say that's also true. So overall, I would say satisfactory, but almost a little bit more than normal. I really think that we're gelling and getting things moving forward, and with the schools constructed, I really feel like we've made a lot of progress. There we go.
Well, all right. Thank you very much. Our next meeting will be on July, well, we'll have one on Monday, won't we? So we'll have our next meeting on this coming Monday at 6:30 to consider the items we talked about before. And outside of that meeting, the one after that will be on July 20th at 6:30 right here. So with that, our meeting is adjourned.